Brothers and sisters from around the world. Twitter Space is starting here. I see they're already coming in. And boy, do we have something to discuss here tonight. Ordinarily, I wouldn't really touch on a lot of this kind of thing, but boy, sometimes you see something that just reminds you that you are in the middle of a racial war zone. And couldn't be more clear or more plain. If you take a look at my Twitter timeline, you can see a picture making the rounds here now. Your man, Lakeith Stansfield, boy, I would love to just chalk it up to dudes doing what they gotta do to get a roll or get on. But bruh, I mean, when you crank out with the garter belts, man, when you go this far with it, it's just, I mean, is there something beyond butt broken? This ain't even butt broken anymore. This is something beyond that. And yes, there's other pictures out there, by the way. If you really want your senses to be assaulted, yes, there are other pictures out there. But man, you just kind of look around and you're looking to see, and you don't really see that happening where a lot of black males are concerned in that regard. You don't really see that you don't really see a whole bunch. I mean, where white males are concerned, you don't really just see it where it's like full drag like that. You don't really see that. That's not really what you notice. And as disturbing as those pictures are, probably the one thing more disturbing are the people who were thumbs upping it and giving it approval. And to me, that signifies a significant amount of hate. There is really an atmosphere of hatred toward Black masculinity that is as bad or worse than anything we saw on the plantations. There is just this overwhelming atmosphere of hatred of Black masculinity. And when you go on his Instagram and you take a look at that picture there, you just keep seeing fire emojis from the blue checks. Bunch of blue check folk. A bunch of blue check folk there. Godfrey left a comment, little open to interpretation. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. One that stuck out to me in particular, there was one from G-Eazy. He's a white, some people call him a rapper. I wouldn't. I'd never do something like that. I've never liked his alt-right looking ass. And you all know since the very first day, I have always been side-eyeing that dude. Then you see Meg the Stallion all booed up with him. So when you're seeing these dudes going to these extents, you start noticing that that's white supremacy there. We're talking about butt breaking and sexual dominance. So his only interactions with Black people are to try to demonstrate some type of sexual dominance. And if you're weak enough and silly enough and dumb enough, then you fall for that. So if you go into the comments on that picture on Lakeith Stanfield's Instagram, there's a comment from G-Eazy, says one word, king. White supremacy promotes its vilest ideologies as satire. Now, notice I didn't say as a joke, but as satire. Something not to be taken seriously, but is serious. And when you see somebody like this run up here and do something like that, seeing a black man dressed like a woman and talking about king, yeah, it kind of invokes that idea. White supremacists have done that for centuries. Black people that they've dominated and whatnot, calling them king, calling them prince, calling them queen. It's a joke. Yeah, it's a sick joke. You don't ever see them doing this kind of thing in their community with their people. You don't see that. There were also a fair number of white females on the post as well. Why, they were more than thrilled. So they were getting their Charlize Theron on. They were getting their Charlize Theron on. So there was no shortage of that. This is a criminal level of intellectual violence being directed toward black men. And let's be very clear, this is violence. This is intellectual, emotional, social violence meant to break your spirit and to shatter your soul. This is violence. I would be remiss if I did not also say that, unfortunately, there were a certain number of black females who were lined up and cheering, as is all too common. Now, some of them were just clout chasing, but this isn't something you clout chase over. And unfortunately, I have to call it for what it is. There's a certain faction, whether it's your daddy issues, your unresolved mommy issues, they are harboring a hatred of black men. And since you don't have the power to actually do anything in the real world, then what you do is you start joining forces with Zaddy. And instead of you attacking white supremacy because you feel helpless and weak and powerless and you yourself have been broken, then what you do is you attack other powerless people, starting with black men. So you start to affect your own impersonation of the white supremacist culture. It's a sickness. It's a very sick thing. It's a very sick thing. So I'm asking a question here tonight. Is there an assault on black masculinity? Now, some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. If you want to weigh in on that, you can go ahead and throw your hands up, and we'll see about letting you speak your piece on this. I consider this to be a very serious thing because your men are the warrior class. Your men are the warrior class. They are the first and really usually only line of defense. But if you've got the males out here twerking while the Russians and the Ukrainians are over here armed to the damn teeth, just understand you have a ineffective defense. If you are relying simply upon a malevolent white supremacist society to get up every morning and just not go in on you, if that's the line of defense that you're depending on, then you actually don't have one. If what you're depending on is, well, we'll just hope they don't do anything today. We'll just hope they don't make a move today. Oh, don't worry, they got bigger fish to fry. That's a lie black folk been telling themselves for centuries. We are the only fish being fried. That is it. We are the only thing on their minds. When they craft legislation, when they create media, when they write their news stories, We are the only thing on their minds. We're the only thing. There isn't any other subject that they're entertaining. Trenton W., you said you want to speak. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Jason Black. Yes, is there an assault on black masculinity? Yes, there's always been an assault on black masculinity, because as Dr. Neely Fuller teaches us that in order for you to be in white society, you either have to be two things. That is an adult child or a substitute woman. And unfortunately, Lakeith Stanfield has chosen to be a substitute woman. When I saw that picture, that at this point it's just becoming to the point where I just don't trust any black celebrities to be a man at this point. Like it just it's just disappointing.
Well, these are a select group of individuals because to get into Hollywood, you have to be selected. And you have a select group of individuals. And to get in, you're going to have to demonstrate. I mean, it's like the casting couch, only you got men on it.
Yeah.
And if you want to A, get in or B, move up, because you basically it's a casting couch you have to keep going back to. It's not like you just did it once and then you just shake that off and away you go. It's like, oh, no, no, no. You got to come back here once a year, like a yearly checkup. You got to come check up. Or if you don't, then you find yourself on the outside looking in. And then you have to start doing stuff like this just to get noticed. So we know, Lakeith has had a couple of things happen in the last couple of years and stuff. But it's like, if when you first saw it, I'm pretty sure you had the same impression that I did, which is okay, somebody is really angling to get a role here somewhere. Somebody is trying to get signed and they don't really know how to make themselves stand out. Somebody's trying to get signed. But when you see this kind of thing, there's a difference between doing something for attention, because, Kanye West does stuff for attention, but don't have to sit up here and put on a garter belt.
Right.
But when you see this kind of thing happen, it really tells you that, it really gives you an insight, I think, into how sick the culture is. When you take a look at it and see hundreds of thousands of likes on that, when you see that, and you notice they keep aiming this kind of thing at black males,
Right.
that to me speaks to the culture. What do you say?
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. Especially in Hollywood, it seems like not all black female celebrities or black public figures agree to this, but it just seems like a lot of them just happen to just go along to get along, just so that they don't have to get on the outskirts of the industry.
If you're this desperate, I just think to myself, if you're this desperate to become a Lil Nas X or something like this, if you're this desperate, what won't you do?
That's a
If you want to know why you really can't trust them, think about that for a moment. If this is how desperate they are to do something like this, what won't they do?
Yeah, that's even a scarier question. It's pretty much how, like, what William O'Neill did to Fred Hampton. Like, if William O'Neill is able to take $300 to just snitch on Fred Hampton, and ironically, he played William O'Neill in Judas and the Black Messiah. If Lakeith Stanfield is able to do that, I don't even want to know what he's doing behind closed doors.
It really kind of gives you an insight into that.
Yes.
It really, really does. Thank you very much for weighing in on that. Brother Moko, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, how you doing, TBA? Brother Muko from Baltimore.
What's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, the question, to get to the question, is there assault on black masculinity? I say yes. There's been an assault on black masculinity. Up here in Baltimore, I'm gonna just be straight up. If you ain't fag, you ain't making no real money up here. You know what I'm saying? Nobody nobody ain't really caping for heterosexual males nowhere really. If you ain't out here spreading your Bucci cat, you ain't really getting you ain't getting nothing.
What can you tell me who you think is pushing that?
Well, definitely the the well, I hate to even say it because now I sound like an African. The government, but the local government, along with the hospitals, it's like an orchestration. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's almost like it's almost like COVID, when COVID first popped off. They offering you incentives to be gay. To be bisexual, to be sexually confused. And it's just sickening up here, man. I'm up here. I'm a contract up here, and man, I was working in a resident's house, and the resident was a black male. But man, I'm up here doing work, and I go on this guy calls me down in the basement, and he's man indecently exposed. You know what I'm saying? That's how crazy it is up here in Baltimore with that. So I think is the local governments and a lot of these women condoning that.
Why do you think the women are condoning it?
I think a lot of it has to do with family members and their own families being that way and them feeling sorry for that and just kind of giving it a pass. And when a man in their family, heterosexual or a person that's not, with the sexual confusion, they kind of bombard them and make them feel guilty about, like trying to correct that. And that's a lot. It's a lot of that going on, not just in Baltimore, but in D.C., Virginia. I mean, I see it a lot up here.
Well, in my opinion, I think a lot of them, they're upset with their fathers. They're upset with a dude who didn't stay with them. And then they wind up taking on an ideology of punishing those people vicariously by, emasculating their sons, emasculating anybody they can. They just kind of go into war mode. And it's just anything and everything you can do to attack, assault, belittle, diminish, ravage the image of masculine black males. You're just going to be on the warpath to do that. And then you'll turn around and complain that you are not protected by the males, that you have emasculated, run down, disarmed, ravaged. But thank you very much for weighing in on that. We also appreciate that. Adonis requested to speak. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hey, so unfortunately, I am gay, but I don't really know if you call me masculine or feminine, but I'm actually only attracted to masculine guys, and like I have trouble finding guys that truly are masculine and aren't into like the club scene and doing like the makeup and all that weird stuff. Just because, like, of course, like I'm into guys, so like I want a guy. But yeah, there's definitely a concerted effort by the media and the government and by liberal institutions to try to feminize men and like make them be less masculine. They call it toxic masculinity, when in reality, being a man is a beautiful and powerful thing. So yeah, there's definitely an attack.
Well, let me ask you a question here. Maybe you can help me to understand something then. Can you explain to me a can you explain the masculine aspect of a gay male?
Yeah. Well, personally, like I'm, a Christian, so I don't do a lot of promiscuous stuff. But being a gay male doesn't mean you have to act like a woman. I think some of that stuff is just put on for attention and just to like kind of make people uncomfortable. But as far as being masculine, yeah, like most of the guys like that I talk to, like I don't really talk to a lot of guys. Like I don't deal with like the feminine, the transgender stuff. I don't agree with. But being a masculine male is just being a regular man, just like being strong, being loyal, taking responsibility, taking care of your mom, taking care of your sisters, taking care of your family. Like that's what being masculine is to me. Like, and not acting like a girl. But most gay men tend to try to act like women, or they like to emulate women and mimic black women. So I don't like that.
Okay, for my clarification, how can you be a gay male and not emulate a female?
Because from a gay man's perspective, like it's different. Like for me, like I don't want to be a woman. Like I'm a guy. I was born
But
only
if
attracted to men, I guess.
but but femininity can only be defined juxtapositioned against the masculine. So if you have two males together, by definition, if you have one male coupling to another male, I'm trying to figure out this. Okay, where's the masculine attribute there? I'm trying to figure out how that applies.
Maybe I'm not the most educated to answer this because like
No, no,
I'm
no.
only
I mean,
21
no.
and I really
Here's my
don't
thing.
know.
Here's my thing. What I'm saying is, we hear that sometimes, and you'll have folks sitting up here defending Lakeith's nonsense by saying some of that too. As a matter of fact, that, oh well, you can be gay and being gay doesn't affect your masculinity. Here's my question: if another man is snuggled up with you, how does that make you different from a woman?
I mean, that's your perspective and from your life experience, and that's
Well,
true for
wait, wait,
you.
wait. But I'm asking a question. So
I
can
don't
you?
know. Like Jason, I really can't answer this question. I don't think I'm wise enough to be able to answer it.
All
Hopefully,
right.
there's someone else down there that can. But
Okay.
I
Well,
appreciate you talking with me.
if there's anybody out here who can explain how you can snuggle up with another man, and that makes you different. If you're a man, snuggle up with another man, it's different from a woman. On Twitter, usually you got your LGBT warriors out there. So if there are any of the LGBT folk who want to clarify here, because Adonis, he wants his boo thing, but at the same time, I think he's coming across a little confused. So if there are any of the LGBT brethren or sisters who want to clarify for us how exactly that works, how exactly you can be snuggled up with another dude and yet that's not a feminine emulation, I'd like for you to take this as your opportunity to address that. Inquiring minds would like to know. So certainly if you can clarify exactly what it is we're missing, go ahead and raise your hand and you can speak and you can educate us on that. Because I'm trying to make 1 + 1 = 2. And so far it's equaling 3 and 4 and everything else. So I don't see how to make 1 + 1 = 2 in this situation. We're talking about, is there an attack on Black masculinity? But you know what? Part of the attack on Black masculinity is some of this bull crap like you just saw on the cover of Essence. What you just saw on the cover of Essence. I think what they're just saying is like, they're doing everything except promoting Black relationships with a heterosexual man. The white media, in essence, is the white media. They are doing everything they can to promote anything and everything except a relationship with a masculine heterosexual Black man. The man can be with another man. The woman can be with another woman. The woman can be with an Andrew Gillum, but you cannot be with a straight up masculine Black male who doesn't have any trait, any hint of any type of emasculation to him. They are deathly afraid of that. They are afraid to death of that. And they're promoting any image and every image except that. and any image and every image outside of that. And I'd like to tell you that that's confined just to America, but it's not. They got a global campaign of this going on now. So if they can't convince you to stop fighting white supremacy one way, then we'll see if we can poison the well and get your warrior class to just check out and say, well, screw it then. You know, if I can't get things one way, I'll see if I can compete to be taken in. I'll see if I can compete to be taken in. There's no place to hide in this equation. You can go ahead and put on all the pencil skirts and all the stiletto heels you want, but you can't really hide in this situation. Adonis, you said you wanted to go.
Else.
Okay, he
so just
check
to clarify, it's not just for black men. I mostly like go on dates with college aged white guys. So
okay, I'll ask again. How is it being snuggled up with another man? What about that is not feminine or female?
because I like I mean, it's two guys together. Like, sex with a guy is nothing like having sex with a woman. Like, most of the guys that I hook up with have girlfriends and they're in college, so they're very masculine.
Okay, then I have one last question. What is the masculine attribute of allowing another male to invade you?
I like being dominated, if you want me to be honest.
Okay, what is masculine about a male desiring to submit to another male?
Because my body feels good when it's being done to me. I have a prostate.
But submission is a psychological step. Now, the physical follows the psychological. So if you psychologically, you desire to be dominated by and submit to another male, by definition, that is the feminine.
Well, I guess it's feminine then.
So I just wanted to clarify that to everyone there. It's like when you get down to it, there's like if you're good because you can't say that those are all things that define the feminine and then say, but I'm secure in my masculinity. Because by definition, you can't imitate female affectations, female body functions, and then say, but I am still, representative of the masculine. Now, do whatever you do and everything, and y'all go ahead and get your Kevin Samuels on. But for the rest of us here, like I said, I just want to be clear about that. So
I'm sorry for the way I am. I mean, I
you don't
have
have
no
to
attraction to women at all. Like,
you don't have to
I'm not gonna.
slow down. You don't have to apologize for being the way you are. Let's be very, very clear about that. That's not something to apologize for. That's not something to give an apology for, is being what you are. The only thing you would need to apologize for is if you attempted to misrepresent yourself. Now, them dudes you're talking about who they laying up with you, and then as soon as they leave, they jump in the shower and then go lay up with a female. If that female doesn't know that she's sharing him with a man, then that's something that needs to be apologized for. But you don't have to apologize for being what you are.
I don't really care about women, so I don't want to apologize to them.
Well, I'm telling you about apologizing to the rest of us. You say, "Oh, I'm sorry for being the way I am." And that's no, you don't have to be sorry for being the way you are. Not at all.
That's their relationship. It doesn't have anything to do with me. But I just tend to go for, I'm mostly just attracted to white men that are, at school. And typically the ones that are masculine already have girlfriends because, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, that's just all I can add.
Well, I mean, definitely, man, do what you do, and it is what it is. Just so long as you're clear that when you encounter the heterosexual society, that when you discuss it with them and you're trying to talk on equal terms, that yours is an alternative masculinity or that it's an equivalent masculinity, just understand why it is that they wouldn't agree with that. As a man, I don't submit to other men. As a man, I don't psychologically desire to be dominated by other men. I don't even like the look, the appearance of impropriety. I don't even like the optics that would seemingly communicate to a male who wishes to dominate other males that I'm eligible or desirous for that position. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that at all. So when you see fellas start to talk in that direction, that's a little bit of a difference right there. And by the way, no, Adonis, he's talking about he's black. All right. But be that as it may, yeah, I mean, this is what you encounter here. You have folks who, I mean, they're going to sell it to you that this is an alternative masculinity, that this is an equivalent, that there's more than one definition, that men can be soft and silky smooth and cuddly, and that's not what masculine men are. We are what is, you judge us contrasted against the feminine. And when you have people sitting up here and where black males are concerned, we're being sold on the idea that, okay, you're cool if you're masculine, but you're really cool if you start taking on these non-masculine traits. And when you see just this explosion of individuals rise up out of nowhere and start congratulating you and thanking you and thumbs upping you, whatnot, they don't thumbs up you for anything else. They don't support you for a damn thing else. If you're with a black woman, they go silent. But as soon as you start demonstrating that you've broken, as soon as you start demonstrating that, that happens, that's a different thing. Now, if you all haven't taken a look at that, you can look on my Twitter page. You can see the picture of Lakeith Stansfield. You can go to his Instagram and see the picture. And let me go ahead and tell you what's wrong with it, okay? For anybody who want to ask that. Let me tell you what's wrong with it. Well, first of all, it should be obvious, but just in case it needs to be explained to some people here. When women appeal for help, for aid, for attention, women appeal for it differently than men. When women are looking to appeal to a man for help, for resources, what does a woman do? Well, we say she turns on her feminine wiles, but how does she do that? Well, she starts showing some skin. That's what she does. She starts showing some skin. Well, where does she start showing some skin? Well, generally, she will show it where her breasts are, and she'll show it where her thighs are. And so as to not run afoul of Twitter censors or whatever, it should be very obvious. Well, those are her womanly parts. So when a woman wants to get men's attention, to get them to stop and render aid, render resources, render assistance, then she starts becoming revealing of those parts of herself. When you got Lakeith sitting up here with a shirt that got half his chest hanging out, when he's wearing these pantyhose and he's got his thighs showing and whatnot, looking like a whole mini skirt, yeah, that's what you'd expect from a female attempting to communicate to men. That's what you expect. Even though you don't have any of the feminine machinery necessary, you're trying to do your best emulation of that. These are specific feminine cues, because those things don't do anything for a woman. They would only do something for a heterosexual male or a male looking for another male, looking for a woman. They don't do anything. That doesn't do anything for females. A man showing some thigh is humorous to a female, but it's not attractive to a female. She doesn't. You've never heard some girls, females in your life, sit up here and say, "Wow, I really like the booty shorts this guy was wearing." You've never heard that. A female will see it as humorous, but she won't see it as attractive. So when you see a man starting to adopt those type of affectations and to start to emulate those feminine cues, those are very specific things. So if you want to know why it is what you saw struck you that way, that's why it struck you that way, because you understood what you were looking at. This is somebody trying to holler. This is somebody trying to holler. And then the next question becomes, okay, who we hollering at? Who are we trying to get the attention of? What, and by doing it by these means, what type of attention are you trying to get? And then, of course, it communicates to you about the greater society. What does this say? What does this do? You're wearing the uniform of other Black men. You're wearing the Black skin. You're wearing the uniform of other Black males. So by you doing things like this, you're communicating to the society that, hey, there are those of us looking to surrender, because that's what that looks like. It doesn't look like you're standing up against anything. This looks like a gesture of surrender, which is exactly what I was saying before about the submission part. This looks like you showed up to submit. And sure enough, G-Eazy and some of these other white folks showed up and they're like, oh, that's thumbs up. That's great. That's wonderful. Oh, 2 thumbs up, king. Well, yeah, of course you would do that. Because if you aren't able to defeat Black masculinity, then your only option is to convince the males to stop fighting, convince the males to surrender, and that they need to submit themselves. And furthermore, you take a look at the effect this has on your children, because that's the other part of this. This is really intended. Yeah, it's intended for the adults, definitely. But when you got the Lil Nas X and all the rest of that stuff out there, that's intended to send a message to your kids. White supremacy plays long-term games. They have long-term goals. So just one day is not going to be enough. You're going to have a steady campaign and a steady march of this kind of thing, a steady drumbeat, so that you have this catalog and this library, which is what they're trying to assemble now. If you all really want to know what the end game is, they're trying to assemble a public library of imagery intended to encourage the current and, most importantly, the next generations to go along with this. That's what they're trying to do. We're trying to assemble a public library of images, movies, statements, so that you can create an environment where individuals will be questioning themselves from the get-go. And then when you start making these suggestions to them, when they start suggesting it to you, when they start suggesting it to your 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, when they start suggesting it to them, then they're so surrounded by it that you'll start to carve off more. Now, will it ever reach a majority? I don't think that will ever happen, but certainly it'll be enough to destabilize. It'll be enough to cause confusion. It'll be enough to cause problems. And when you take a look up and you see hundreds of thousands of likes, that really tells you how hostile the current environment is toward masculine Black males. That really gives you a very, in my opinion, frightening glimpse into just how hostile Western society is now toward any type of Black masculinity. This is why it is so important for so many people to denigrate your sons early, break their confidence, make sure they can't read, they can't write, they can't count. When you can't do that, you immediately lack confidence when you're sitting in a room where other people have the skills and you don't. And in many cases, to see the Black females following up on that is especially dispiriting, because you'll do that And then next thing you know, they come for you. Next thing you know, they come for you. Then there will be screaming and yelling about the amount of protection that you don't have. You cannot target your own sons. You can't target your own children. You can't target your protector and warrior class and think you're going to be safe. You can't target them and do that. And once again, I challenge you here. You show me where this is going on in the dominant society at all. You show me where this is going on. So when you see stuff like that and Kid Cudi and all the rest of them and whatnot, it really reminds you that the entertainment industry really does have a litmus test. They really do have not just buck-breaking practices, but a buck-breaking system where you get fed in one end, you get buck broken, and then they spit you out the other. So you might walk in with your pants and your loafers on, but you leaving with this mini skirt and these heels on, if you want it bad enough. And they're always going to have a carrot to dangle for that. So what it really tells you is some folks have been sitting on the outside looking in. They've been waiting for a while. They've been watching this. You've been existing in that little weird little bubble out there in California and New York. You are totally out of touch with the rest of the society. You are completely out of touch with the rest of the society. Because after something like this, you tell me, think about this for the long term. I want you all to think about this for the long term. Whether it's Tyler Perry, whether it's Kid Cudi, whether it is, did Young Jock do that? Whether it's Lakeith Stanfield. How do you ever go back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now? How do you go stand among the men? When your career and what you're doing now is really no longer viable and really you're just going to have to go for respect. How do you go among the men? Five, 10, 15, 20 years from now, how do you go and stand among the men and hold yourself up as somebody to look back on your record of accomplishments or what you've done and then get their respect? How do you do that now that they've seen this? How are you going to walk back among the men? Forget among the women. How are you going to stand among the men as a peer? Because men look for people who can empower them. Somebody who has demonstrated that, they'll let themselves submit and be dominated if they need to. That's not very encouraging to other men. Other men don't really look to keep that around. That's not really something other men are looking to keep. That's not really something other men are looking to go for. So long after your entertainment career is fizzled, long after that's fizzled out, long after, there's no more movie roles really to speak of, long after your hit records are gone, long after that happens, you're going to be just who you are. And you're going to have to stand among other people. And do you want to be a joke or do you want to be a man? At that time, you're going to want to be a man. Now you're going to want to be respected as a man. Now you're going to want to be respected on masculine terms. You're not going to want anybody coming up here and pinching you on the butt cheeks and whatnot. You're not going to want that. You're going to want them to give you the respect and deference. And let's be very, very clear. I've taught you all this for years. Let's be very, very clear. There is no definition of the word respect without an element of fear. So just like I had to explain to Adonis about what it is that truly defines masculine and feminine, let's be very clear. There is no definition of respect that does not contain an element of fear. Now, when you sit here and see Lakeith sitting here with his garters on and his slicked up legs, what is there to be afraid of? What is there to respect? There is no element of if you cross this person, if you do things the wrong way, that's where respect comes in. You respect people if there's a price. You respect people if you understand this. Okay, I can't deal with them just any kind of way. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, you respect electricity. All of us have electricity in our homes. All of us use electricity, but understand we use it by a specific set of rules. And the fact that all of you are here means you didn't get electrocuted, because you understand if you cross electricity, if you don't treat it with the proper respect, it doesn't ask you to do that. You must do it. You're required to do it. And if you don't treat it with the proper respect, something bad's liable to happen to you. Now, most of us are smart enough to make sure that bad thing never occurs, but we all respect electricity. It doesn't mean that we run from it. It doesn't really truly mean that we are frightened of it, but there is an element of fear if we do not respect it. We're not afraid to use it, but we are terrified of what will happen if we use it without its proper respect. Same thing with fire. Fire is a great tool. We use it. We couldn't get along without it. You couldn't have the physical universe that you have today without it. And yet we understand there's an element of fear to it. There must be. Because if you attempt to break any of the rules, and if you attempt to use fire outside of the proper confines, something bad is liable to happen. So you understand there's only so much you can do. There are lines, and you better not cross them. So you have to play within those boundaries. When you can take a man's masculinity and there is no price to pay, when you can strip him of that and there is no penalty, when you are able to get him to submit to your dominance and parade himself publicly as a public example of what your dominance is, there's no fear there. And my concern is the same as always. The media and the elements that hate Black men in social media, the white elements, the female elements, the media elements that hate masculine Black men, they're looking for anything they can get. They'll take any example they can grab, and they'll hold that up and dangle that as an example. And then they'll say, see, it's okay for us to do these things to the other men, to the children. Even if they say they don't want it, it makes it okay to do that. Everybody remembers what happened to Terry Crews. Yeah, when you have a few dudes sit up here and accept that, next thing you know, they're demanding all of you have to accept this. All of you have to be on board. Everybody's got to be down with it. That's the penalty that is paid if we don't speak up and say, this is a very disturbing thing to see, because it's got some very disturbing overtones to it. That you all keep having this steady drumbeat, that you are just not happy whatsoever with a masculine Black male. You're not promoting that at all. If we're not willing to sacrifice that and give it up, you're just not okay with us. So my response to that is, brothers, we cannot afford to be safe. We can't afford to have the rest of the world speaking of us being safe. We are not here to make them feel like everything is great and everything is okay. We're not here to show them that we are, quote unquote, harmless. That doesn't mean you walk around being, quote, dangerous. But this idea that our goal is to demonstrate and illustrate to the rest of the world that we're harmless, that we are here to submit, that we will denigrate ourselves in whatever way, that our goal is to communicate to you that we're not a threat, we're not a problem, we're harmless, we're all lined up to see if we can submit to your dominance. Yeah, that is a problem. That's a huge problem. Because once enough of you communicate that, Then next thing you know, they start, first they were asking to take liberties. Next thing you know, they just start taking them. Next thing you know, they just start doing things to you. Next thing you know, you find yourselves in supposedly Black enclaves, and yet the power structure is demanding that the warrior class stand down and be subjugated. So you end up with Atlanta and Baltimore and Chicago, and I can go down the list. That's the dangerous part of accepting that. That's the dangerous part of it. It's not a victimless crime. This is not just something that happened and, oh, well, you're overblowing it. No, we're not over. You can't keep saying that this keeps happening and we're overblowing it. The problem is we haven't spoken up against it loudly enough. And there will be some of you who are extremely sick. And you'll have your own children out here doing this. And it's all fun and games. And that's another thing I can't stand. Emasculating Black men has become a game. Emasculating Black males has become a national pastime. It's become an amusement. We're on some sick plantation stuff here. Emasculating Black men has become a national sport. Unfortunately, both outside and, I'm sad to say, inside Black society, trying to emasculate us has become a national sport. And that's why I'm saying, okay, any of the softness, any of the goofing off, we really got to put that to the side. We really got to put that to the side. I'm talking about for everybody, Black nerds and everybody else in between. And I'm one of them. I wear glasses and everything else. But this idea that we're harmless, no. We're not here to prioritize making you feel that we're harmless. Because when people see a harmless male, they see a victim to take advantage of. That's the problem. When they see you're harmless, they don't want to collaborate with you. When they see you're harmless, they want to exploit you. They don't want to collaborate with you. They just want to exploit you because nobody respects a weak male. And you communicate weakness by submission. You indicate weakness by submission. It's not something to play with. So if anybody thinks these images are trivial, you're wrong. And if you feel a little unsettled to see white celebrities or white entertainers, G-Eazy and others sitting up here thumbs upping it, if it makes you feel a little queasy about it, it should. He didn't show up for no reason. He showed up in particular he couldn't help himself. Yeah, this is what they want to see. And when you are in a war, you do not do what your enemy expects. You do not do what your enemy expects. Is there an assault on Black masculinity? I'll let the evidence speak for itself. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us here on Twitter Space. Go ahead and join me on YouTube as well. The link is in my profile description. So if you haven't signed up to subscribe to my YouTube channel, go ahead and check that out as well. I want to thank you all for joining us here this evening. This concludes tonight's Twitter Space. I'm your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, Black is the future, and the future